Hello and welcome to Solopreneur, the show that helps business owners who are flying solo to solve their big sales, marketing and systems challenges one episode at a time. You can watch the video version of this episode at solopreneur.com. I'm Gareth Everson and this episode is all about niching, specifically mistakes that you can make when you niche or don't niche your business. There's a lot of conversation that goes around and a lot of advice given to small businesses and solopreneurs around the need to niche your business. So you'll have heard a lot on this. So you might be already thinking, what's this going to teach me that I've not already heard? Specifically, I'm not going to talk about the general stuff, but I'm going to talk about the problems that can come from not focusing on it in the right way. And I've got 5 tips for you on this episode, and you can download those tips in a simple diagram if you go to solopreneur.com/niche. Let's get into the episode. So there's a common perception of niching that what it really relates to is who your target market is and what you sell to that target market. And at a high level, I can see why people would just stop there without going to a different or a deeper level of detail. If you turn on Dragon's Den, for example, you see somebody come into the den looking all nervous, sweaty palms, and presenting to the 5 dragons an idea that they've got that when it comes across on TV through the edit, you only kind of see the very top level of it. You don't get into the level of detail that makes them different or investable, right? So in these 5 steps to niching that I'm going to take you through, you might just take one nugget, but that might be the difference between getting this right and getting it wrong. I don't normally dwell on the negative, but I see so many people make mistakes when it comes to niching or being too generalist in their approach that I'm recording this episode to help you to avoid some of those traps, because it can be costly. It can either be costly in terms of you not generating enough revenue and profit for your business to meet the goals that you set, or it can lead you to time delays between having your business start up and get a degree of traction and really having success with it. So with all of that in mind, let's start with point number 1. So point number 1 is one that everybody talks about when it comes to niches. Who is your market? It's the who. Knowing who you're marketing to allows you to get more specific and get more honed in with your marketing messages, with your communications, with people being able to look at what you're about and say, yes, that's me, or no, that's definitely not me, if we're ruling out people that we don't want to be working with. I want to bring this to life by focusing on a few examples where you can see the difference between different audiences that people might term their niche and ones that are probably actually more accurate around a specific niche on this who question. One of the clients who really brought this to life for me is a physio in the northeast of England called Paul Goff, who runs 4 physio practices in an area of the country that has historically been probably a lower income community than other parts of the country. Why do I say that? Well, he offers physiotherapy services to people who pay him privately. So already there's a contrast between the local demographic of people who probably would, under normal circumstances, wait on NHS waiting lists for physiotherapy versus the kind of target market that he has. So he's providing physiotherapy services to people, by and large, who are in their 50s and 60s, who want to be and stay as active as they have been in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. That, at a high level, is his target niche. If we go a step further with that, because he's providing private physiotherapy services, we can also say that that target market doesn't want to wait on NHS waiting lists for physiotherapy services that might only go so far to get them back to full movement and mobility and activity. So we know that about them as well. Third thing is that they don't want to wait. They have interests that they really enjoy doing. It might be running. It might be that they're members of the local golf club. It might be that they've invested a few £1,000s or more in a bike that they enjoy riding in groups. One way or the other, they have got interests that they don't want to stop doing, perhaps because they've seen friends and people who also do that have to stop doing the thing that they love doing because they've waited for NHS services, and they don't want to do that. They've seen people that they have done that activity with never come back to doing that thing. So there's a time aspect to it as well. They want a solution relatively quickly. There's also an aspect to this business's audience where they're prepared to pay for the results that they're getting. So there's a financial aspect to this, and that they're also amenable to be able to work with their allotted physio on a program of physiotherapy activities so that they can address the underlying issues around this back pain or knee pain or shoulder pain issue that they're encountering. So you can see there how we've gone from a very high level picture of that audience, somebody who's in their 50s and 60s that's encountering back pain or knee pain, that's at the very top level, down to something that's really quite a granular picture of somebody that needs those physiotherapy services. When Paul decided to focus on a particular demographic that he wanted to provide physiotherapy services, I'm sure there was an aspect of his mind where he thought, actually, if we go down this route, I'm cutting out a certain percentage of the population who I can't serve. I'm cutting out potentially patients that I'd otherwise lose to somebody else by going down this pathway. However, what his positioning has allowed him to do is to speak to specific audience needs within his marketing activities, to hone in on some of those messages that probably resonate quite well with those people, the missing out things, the time aspect piece of it, the enjoyment of being able to do these activities and pursuits whenever they want to and not just when their back isn't playing up. All of those kind of things give him that angle to be able to go after his market more accurately. Let's think about a B2B market. So I've got another client who does communications training in a B2B setting, in a professional services setting. So we've got communication services and we've got a B2B type setting, a businesses that work with other businesses. She's helping people in those organizations to improve the way that they communicate. However, she then zones in a little bit further on the type of those businesses. So she works really well with legal practices and professional services companies. Great. Okay, so we've gone down an extra level of detail there. Then when we get into it a little bit more, her best clients tend to be underrepresented groups who aren't having their voices heard in boardrooms and in meetings. That might be women or people with disabilities or people who are returning to work or people with autism, for example. Groups of people who are great at what they do in a professional setting, but because they're not part of the core of that management team in terms of their backgrounds or what they look like, where they went to school, their interests, that kind of thing, they're sometimes unable to make themselves heard in situations where their expertise really should be heard a little bit more. And then if we dial in that a little bit more and we think about the management team who are running a business where they're having people who are underrepresented not able to come to the fore, then we can think about the cost to those owners of those businesses of not having that. So there's an opportunity gap for the owners of those companies to be able to bring the expertise that they have to the fore and to be recognized and understood. So can you see how in that setting as well, we've gone from communication skills for professional services people down to something that's a much more granular level of detail around an audience that we're trying to attract. So wrapping up this first one, whilst everybody will tell you that they work in a particular niche and they serve e-commerce or they serve plumbers or they serve whatever the industry happens to be, there are always 3 or 4 levels of detail that you can explore and go further in to really hone in on the who, but without compromising your opportunity to be able to find a market in that space. So that's the who, that's number 1. Number 1 reflects and mirrors number 2. Number 2 is the question that many people don't ask when it comes to this. And number 2 is why. So why does this market have a problem? This really helps you to go deeper on finding your audience, finding your niche. When you don't answer this question, you really miss out on the real purpose of how you serve that audience. Let me go into a little bit more detail. So, is the problem that person or that group or that target audience experiencing, is it expensive for them? Is it time consuming? What's the thing that's the complete pain in the arse for that group? And why can't they do this themselves? What's the thing that's stopping them from being able to do this themselves that you can happily do almost in your sleep? What is it that you can do as an expert in your domain that you've done for years, possibly without even thinking about it, a realm of expertise that you have that makes it much easier for you to answer those questions that people in your target market have? And why can't they do it? What is the big problem that they face when it comes to doing it? If you can answer that why question, then it really combines well with question number 1, the who. So the who and the why go together in this regard. Then the third thing is, it's another common one that people think about when it comes to niching, and it's the what. So what product, what service are you providing for this audience? Again, with this, you can find yourself going down a rabbit hole or multiple rabbit holes, if you like, whereby because you're pretty good in the realm, in the domain in which you operate, you find yourself doing lots of general skills around this topic that spread you really quite thinly. And that when you do them for multiple clients, maybe across the day, across the week, because you're context switching so much, that can actually be a huge energy drain on you, so that you're probably not able to, in the course of a week, achieve the outputs that you'd want to, or the outcomes that you want to, for as many clients as you like to, because it's such a time and energy suck. So are there things within the realm of what you do? Are there really serious, deep areas of expert skills that you can bring to play that are the biggest pains in the bum for the audience that you're serving? This is another great way where you can think about, actually, whilst I can do X, Y, and Z, it's item Z that adds most value to my target audience. So when you think about the what you deliver, try and think about, if you were to hone in on 1 or 2 really key skills that you have that you bring to bear for your audience, would it add more value to them and to your business in terms of where it can go for you to focus on those? I'll give you an example. I've worked in the CRM, email marketing, marketing and sales funnel space for the last 14 years. It took me a couple of years to work out that one of my skill sets, one of my really deep skill sets that really helped clients out, was that I'm very good at joining up processes in businesses. You'll have seen my resources on what I call the lemonade plan, the 8-step plan between getting leads, the L of lemonade, through to endorsements, getting the repeat sales, the referrals, and reviews that your work deserves. And those 8 processes brought together give you a full sales and marketing process set in a systemized format. I'm really good at that. But specifically in that realm, one thing that I'm really good at, and it's helped me to hone in on my audience, is helping those clients who are targeting their own clients or patients where there's a slightly longer decision cycle for them to decide that they want to work with my clients. And that might, if I relate that back to the physio, for example, many of his patients will leave off making a decision to go and book in with a physio because they think that that pain might go away. They've been active in the past. They've overcome aches and pains previously. Why wouldn't that go away? One of the things that he's able to do with his marketing, with my guidance, was to have a gentle drip of communications that add value and give tips and insights and examples of patients that have worked with them in the past over a long period of time. So if it takes that patient a month or 3 months or 8 months or 2 years to decide that they want to have that back problem or knee problem solved, the marketing is going to that person over as long a period as they need to be able to make that decision. You've maybe experienced it in your own world that when somebody expresses interest in your services, if you're not following up with them, if they're slow to make a decision, and if you're not following up with them in such a proactive way for such a long period of time, then when it comes to them making a decision to go and get that solved, you're not even in the picture anymore. The trail has gone cold to you. They're researching it. They're doing their own discovery process again and ending up working with somebody else. That's one of my areas of expertise, to keep that fire lit and that interest lit, to keep that lead warm throughout a process that comes with it. I discovered that through working with clients and them feeding back to me that they'd never thought through things in quite this way. So that, for me, in terms of deciding my what, was one of the key learning experiences around what I can do to help my clients to succeed. You'll have heard on episode 20, I quoted Alan Dibb, who's a marketing author. He wrote the books One Page Marketing Plan and Lean Marketing. He talks about this problem in this way, that most small businesses will come up with an idea for a product and then try and go find the people to buy that product. Whereas he says it should be the other way around. Go and research your market, perhaps through working with clients, and find out the pain points that they have and the problems that they have so that you can shape your products for those people. He calls it stuff for your people, not people for your stuff. And I think that really makes sense when it comes to this third aspect of niching better in your business, around deciding what product or service you're going to help them with. Just like when we thought about on points 1 and 2, how the who and the why mirror one another, points number 3 and 4 also the same thing. So when we think about point number 4, which is this product or service scalable and profitable, that mirrors against point number 3, the product and the service. So as well as thinking about that product and the service, we also need to think about how that mirrors off against, is it scalable and is it profitable? two ways of thinking about this. In terms of scalability, how can what you deliver, how can you do that effectively with the time and availability that you have in your diary? Another way of thinking about it is this. If I do this specific thing with all of my clients, is there a way that I can do this in a wider setting? So perhaps instead of one-to-one with clients, can I do it in a group setting, or can I create a course, or can I create some sort of asset that I can sell without it requiring my time to do it? So is it scalable in that regard? So without having to bring on a member of a team or a wider team to be able to do this, or farm it out to associates, is there a way that I can scale that offering with more people? The second part of this is, if I can't do that, is there a way that I can still continue to sell this service, but bring in staff in order to be able to help me to do it? So on payroll staff, can I bring those people in at a salary level that still allows me to deliver this service profitably to my audience? So those are two angles that I'd like you to think about in terms of point number 4. Is it scalable? Is it profitable for me to be able to run it? One of my clients is a garden designer, and she loves the whole concept, the whole life concept of being able to help people that under other circumstances would find it impossible to turn that piece of land that they've got behind their house into a beautiful garden that they enjoy spending time in. That transformation process around going from a blank canvas, or an overgrown canvas in the case of a garden, into something that completely transforms the way that that family might think about the place where they live, is something that brings this client a lot of joy. However, doing a garden design from end to end requires a whole ton of energy and thought process and interaction and back and forth, and clients that are perhaps hesitant because they're unsure about things, or change their mind about different things that they want to include in there. It's a time consuming and energy consuming whole process to be able to manage all of those things for clients. That then forces a limit of the number of clients that she can work with. And so when she was thinking about this scalability and profitability piece, while she didn't want to just completely throw away the opportunity to help these clients shape their gardens, she did need to find a way that she could become more scalable with her offering to be able to grow her business without recruiting. And her pathway down this was to identify certain garden types, certain border designs that she could do that would work in a number of different settings, and how people wouldn't need to hire her one-to-one to be able to achieve, let's say, 80% of the objective that they had around reshaping and redesigning their garden such that it brought them more joy than it did just now. And that's a product that she can sell online with very little interaction on her part, with very little ongoing management on her part, and it becomes a product that facilitates her freeing up some of her time and energy that she'd otherwise have to take on time-consuming and energy-consuming additional one-to-one clients. She can move away from that a little bit more by just having that freedom and that flexibility and that financial buffer that there's revenue coming in from online sources that give her that buffer. There's a great book for small businesses on the topic of scalability, and it's by an author called John Warrillow, who I've mentioned before on the podcast. He wrote a book called The Automatic Customer. And in that book, he has a number of different models, any one of which would apply to any small business. A whole host of repeated revenue type sources, subscription type models, or recurring revenue type models that would benefit any small business in some way or another. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that as a book if you want to achieve more scalability and profitability with your business venture. I'll leave you on this thought with point 4. If we don't do that, and if we don't build a business that's scalable, whether through a recurring revenue, whether it's through a group type revenue where you're scaling your own time, so in 1 hour, you can do what you would do with 5 hours of time under other circumstances, or have something that has such processes and systems that they run automatically, or is a business model where you can easily hire in help to do that for you on a profitable basis. If you don't have something that fits one of those models and you're only working one-to-one with clients, then you are in effect just buying yourself a job, and you're back into this role of doing work in the same way that you would have been doing had you had a job and employed by an organization. So give that some thought, and how number 4, scalability and profitability, relates directly to the product and service that you'd be able to sell. Those two go hand in hand and mirror one another. The final consideration is values alignment. So this is a much softer consideration to have when it comes to niching in your business. And it's probably not something that, unless you have worked with your type of client before you've started in business, it will be something that you'll probably need to consider and think through over time and refine your sort of thought processes on this. You don't necessarily have to have your own personal values documented around this, although that can sometimes help. Sometimes it can be just good enough to have a gut feel about the type of clients that you want to work with. And if there's somewhere on your website where you can draw attention to this or use language around this, then that's so much the better. But if you struggle to think about values alignment, try and think about these things. Are there clients or patients that you've worked with in the past that have failed to pay you on time, or who have asked for things that you haven't agreed as part of the product that you're delivering? Are there refinements or adjustments that go kind of sit outside the things that you've agreed to deliver for them? Are there just simple ways or tones or questions or challenges that those clients or patients pose you that other clients don't? And can you put your finger on where that feels like it's out of line or out of expectation with what you want? Are they rude to you? Are they even aggressive with you? Do they say thank you? Do they acknowledge when they're asking you a question that it might be disturbing you? All of those things form your judgment of what's important to you by way of values. For me and my part, I really enjoy working with clients who value their own clients, who aren't profiteering from issues or challenges that their own clients or patients face, that they're providing fair value and great service to those clients, and they're passionate about doing so. The kind of businesses that I like working with are ones who probably mirror the same way that I think about my life. So family is important to me, my clients are important to me, ongoing learning is important to me, providing an ethical and valuable service to my clients is important to me. And all of those traits and all of those characteristics are really common to see in my clients. When I talk about volunteering and coaching kids football, they'll have examples of where they volunteer in their own communities. Where I talk about my family and doing things and devoting time and prioritizing time with my family, some of my clients will have similar stories to tell in that regard. Where I share insights and tips and guidance online, my clients, more often than not, will do similarly. We're an ethics-driven type community. We care about the people that we serve, and the reason we care about them is because there's a joy to helping others. So for me, whilst it's a softer one, the values alignment piece, when I'm thinking about my target market and who I'm working with, is ever so important. So those are the 5 considerations that I think you should be making when it comes to thinking about how you niche your business. And if you struggle to in the past really hone in on what your target market or your niche looks like, and you've failed to get traction in this area, just give some consideration as to whether you've gone down as deeply in all of these 5 areas, or if perhaps even there are some that you'd not even thought about before that you might want to think about a little bit further. I'll leave you with this. If you are capable and competent at the skill that brought you into running your business, the area of expertise that you have, you can probably make a reasonable income through being a generalist, because whilst you'll have really deep skills in one particular area, you've probably got good skills across similar or related parts to that expertise. And you'll probably be tempted from time to time when clients ask you or reflect that they're having problems with something, you might be tempted from time to time to say, oh, I can pick that up as well. Give serious thought as to whether that actually holds your business back. Because whilst you might help that one client to achieve that wider objective that they've got that is holding them back, it's probably costing you, both in terms of your time and your revenues, it's costing you in terms of not being able to then work with 2-3 other clients that you might have been able to do had you not picked up that more generalist work. That's another good reason to think about niching your business. And even though it might feel a little bit uncomfortable and it might feel like you're narrowing down your market, it can actually benefit you in so many different ways. It helps you hone in on the language that you should be using. It helps you speak more to that target market that you've got, and it helps them to resonate with your message so much more. So as a reminder on this, you can get the resources for this episode. You can get the single page diagram if you go to solopreneur.com/niche. And I'd love to get your feedback on this episode. Otherwise, when you receive this niching guide, by all means, drop me a reply to the email that you'll get from me on that. And just give me your thoughts on if there are other areas that maybe I haven't considered around niching, or other things that you've thought through as a result of this episode that you maybe hadn't considered before. So good luck on your niching journey. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Niching doesn't close off doors to you. It probably, if anything, opens more doors when you go down this pathway. You'll find that you're a lot more confident about the language that you're using, about who you're talking to, and the problems that you're helping them solve, so that it's a lot clearer to more people what you do and how you do it and the value that you bring. So good luck on your niching journey. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Solopreneur podcast. Remember that what we learned today builds more value if there's a plan to take action on it tomorrow. So head to solopreneur.com and check out our growing community of action takers and all the training and software that you need to build a scalable business without breaking the bank. And if you value the show, please help others to discover it too by leaving us a review wherever you get your podcasts, or by sharing a link to an episode on LinkedIn or wherever your finger does its scrolling.